Good morning. You're listening to Paul Brandt here on LBC, sitting in for Matt Fry this morning. Great to have your company. We are talking this morning quite a lot, aren't we, about failure in politics, if we're going by the last hour for starters. Well, how about this for a comeback? So Tony Blair, who some accuse of war crimes, we've had, his face often on placards in anti-war demonstrations. Remember the campaign to have him tried over the invasion of Iraq. As futile as that might have been, well, now he's been given a place on Gaza's Board of Peace. Incongruous to some, to see the man who claimed there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq invaded, caused hundreds of thousands of deaths, or helped contribute to hundreds of thousands of deaths through that invasion, only to leave a destabilised and deeply divided country behind when the British pulled out. Well, apparently, Sir Tony is well placed to determine a peaceful path for Gaza now. Is this reward for failure in politics? Do you fear for the direction of this Board of Peace? It'll also include Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and his envoy, Steve Witkoff, as well as some figures from the Middle East itself, and Marco Rubio as well, Secretary of State. But it is Tony Blair's appointment attracting the most discussion this morning. Does he have any right, do you think, to sit on that board? Maybe you think he does have expertise. We've got to be able to forgive mistakes of the past, even if they are pretty major mistakes that have cost a lot of lives. Maybe he knows better than anyone how to avoid repeating those mistakes. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. You can text me as well, 84850. I want to start the conversation with Peter Oben, who is author of Complicit, Britain's Role in the Destruction of Gaza, and also Erol Morkoc, who is a Republican strategist and a spokesperson for the Republicans overseas UK. Right, so I want to start with you, Erol, if that's all right with you. Good morning to you. Can you just explain to me what you think the thinking is here of Donald Trump behind appointing Sir Tony Blair to the Board of Peace for Gaza?
Yes, good morning, and thank you for having me. Regarding Tony Blair, I have to say from a MAGA perspective, he isn't the first choice that many people had. I would say that the likely analysis is there's sort of an age range of people who would probably pick up the phone and think of Tony Blair's name, and Donald Trump is in that group of people who still might think that he's a relevant person, and you put him in a position like that where he has only failed in all of his history. For some reason, maybe all of that failure will be useful, but honestly, it's a baffling choice to many of us.
Peter Oben, what do you make of it? Because, you've been critical in the past, including in your book, about Britain's role in the Middle East. I'm not sure Tony Blair would necessarily be the first pick if we're looking for somebody who has a clean record on this matter.
Yes, I think it's a bizarre appointment, really, not only because of Tony Blair's role, as you rightly highlighted, in the illegal Iraq invasion, which was so catastrophic in its consequences in 2003, 22 years ago, but also Tony Blair's subsequent role in the Middle East as the Middle East envoy, but also as an advisor to various Middle East despotisms at the same time. His role as Middle East envoy, you quoted somebody as saying, he'd been hundreds of times, but he used to go, when he had this incredibly important and rather wonderful job, he'd go for 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 days a month. I made a television program about it for Channel 4, actually. He hardly went to Gaza at all. I mean, I think it was 2 or maximum 3 times, just for a drop in. He became far too close to the Israeli establishment as against the Palestinian establishment. And it has to be said at one point, if you look at this board which Donald Trump has just produced, it's all male. I can't see a Palestinian member. It's a sort of, I don't think there's scarcely any Arab members. It's really a pro-consular situation. It's a return to something like the British mandate, bizarrely, of the 1920s and 1930s, which was set up after World War I. And I think it's distasteful.
Well, interestingly, we've got a statement now from Tony Blair reacting to his appointment. He says he is honoured to be appointed to the Board of Peace. It's been a real privilege, he says, to work with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. I look forward to working with them and other colleagues in line with the President's vision to promote peace and prosperity. He pours a lot of praise on Donald Trump, which is sort of compulsory these days if you want to be appointed to any sort of a position by him. For Gaza, Tony Blair says the President's 20-point plan to end the war was an extraordinary achievement. It was something many thought could not happen. The war did end and the hostages released. He goes on to say it gives hope to people in Gaza that they can have a future different from the past, and to the Israelis that they may have a neighbour which does not threaten its security. Interestingly, he says, for Gaza and its people, we want a Gaza which does not reconstruct Gaza as it was, but as it could and should be. Any idea, Peter, what that means? We don't want a Gaza which as it was, but as it could and should be, because we saw Donald Trump having some pretty outlandish ideas about what Gaza should look like.
Very quickly, before I do answer that, I mean,
Sure.
The war has not ended, by the way. Since the so-called ceasefire was happened, there's 450 Palestinians have been killed by Israel. And I think there's been about 800 violations of the ceasefire. There's been abatement of the killing. There hasn't been a ceasefire. And also, I mean, I don't think that any Israelis have been killed. I think the Israelis claim 3, but that seems to possibly have been driving over some unexploded unexploded ordnance. But to answer your big question here about what's the role, don't forget that as the Financial Times revealed before this was set up, the Blair organization was involved in various sort of thoughts about the future of Gaza, including the Trump Riviera. There was an Elon Musk sort of manufacturing business. And look, this is what they are thinking about in terms of the future of Gaza, when no Palestinians have any sort of serious position. And it feels to me like a kind of, as I say, a foreign protectorate.
Errol, do we have any idea what President Trump's thinking is here in the way that he's constructed his Board of Peace? I mean, as I say, it's quite interesting to hear Tony Blair talk about not rebuilding Gaza as it was, but looking at what Gaza should and could be. We saw President Trump, I know it was sort of a fleeting moment, but it was quite revealing when he generated that AI video of the Riviera, the Gazan Riviera, and statues of President Trump. Do we assume that he still wants to move in that direction of sort of rebuilding Gaza in a completely new image?
I would think so, and I think the AI video was a little bit tongue in cheek. The subtext behind it, which is to your original statement that he made that they want to reconstruct Gaza in a new vision, is probably the reason why there is any hope here. I mean, if you wanted any chance of this to go on forward, as you had mentioned, it's sort of like the British Mandate in the sense of just appointing ambassadors and appointing administrators. Yes, but imagine the British Mandate had the support of the Arab world, and the Arab world was fantastically wealthy, bunch of oil traders, and they all had an interest in taking this zone and creating a free economic zone and going forward. I think that's probably the direction that they're looking at for Gaza, if there is going to be anything. And also, I do want to, at least for the sake of the record, say that they do expect to add additional people to this advisory board. I think if the only people on the board are going to be American Jews, and I think the head of the World Bank, that's probably not the direction it needs to go. It needs to have more Arab members, it needs to have some Palestinian people on the board. But the idea that this could be possible is only there because the Arab world is behind the president. I think that's important to differentiate compared to other attempts at this before.
Okay. Errol, thank you so much for your time this morning. That was Erol Morkoc there, a Republican strategist who's spokesperson for Republicans Overseas UK. And we also spoke to Peter Oben. Thank you to him too. He has written a book.